What's his name? You're Peter Whitfield's granddaughter?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting. I'll just smile. When you see him again, ask him, you met one of your lecturers is Julian Fountain, and see what he says.
I know he knows some fountains. I'll ask him though.
It's a small world, Miss Whitfield.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can't wait 1 more minute or 2 more minutes. Let's see who else is going to show up. Bank of the Bahamas, always late, never on time.
Mr. Fountain, don't do that. You know, I work very hard. You know, I'm the hardest working employee in my branch.
I'm glad to hear that, and I agree with you 100%. What's that got to do with showing up at 6 o'clock and turning on your video feed?
I left work rather late. We had some issues I had to deal with. I'm sorry.
Oh my goodness. You need to go into another department. Go into that department where Miss Kemp is in lending. She's get
They
on,
will make it.
go and get out early, right, Miss Kemp?
That's right.
Yeah. Kelly Whitfield. I got it. I found it. Okay. I know a Kelly Whitfield. Okay, who are we waiting for? We are waiting for 1 more person, 2 more people. So what do y'all think of this weather? You think it's going to get cool again before the end of February? No?
Yeah, I think it's going to get cool.
You think we're going to stay warm like this with global warming? Well, this takes so long to settle down. Except for Ms. Knowles, who was here patiently waiting. Okay, there's Miss Fernanda and Martine Ferguson. We're good. That's 8.
Good evening.
Good evening, Miss Fernanda. How are you doing?
Good evening, everyone. Hello, how are you?
Okay. Okay, I have a question for all of y'all. Okay. What's define money market?
Which market did you say?
Money market.
The 5 money market is commercial paper,
I know it's short term.
negotiated certificate of deposit, repurchase agreement,
Martine,
funds.
Those are money market instruments. Define a money market. What is money market? It's a market where short-term financial
short-term funds are transferred?
Not transferred, Ms. Russell, where they are traded. They're bought and sold. Money market.
Well, I had it right, Mr. Fountain.
Okay, what did you say again?
I said it's a market where short-term debt securities are traded. I said they have to be less than a year.
Absolutely. I apologize 100%. You got it 100% right. My apologies, Ms. Whitfield. I'm going to shoot myself in the foot for that.
No problem.
All right. I'll only have 1 foot, but I'll do it just for you because you were correct. Correct? It's kind of hot over by you, Colette? Okay. Okay. Now, Miss Ferguson, Martine, name 2 money market instruments or securities. Hello, Miss Cartwright. Good to see you again.
Hello.
Hello?
Yeah.
I could help her out.
Martine, you were telling me about money market instruments. Name 3 money market instruments. Name 2.
You say
Name
me?
1. Yeah, you, Martine.
The money market instrument, the Fed funds, and the
Okay.
commercial paper.
Okay, somebody give me 2 more.
Treasury notes,
Treasury bills.
treasury bills, sorry.
Treasury notes are medium term. They're greater than 1 year and less than 5 usually.
Right.
Repo agreements.
Yep. Okay.
What about the bonds,
What about bonds?
the treasury bonds?
Treasury bonds are just longer term. They're usually 25 to 30 years. So treasury bills, short term. Treasury notes, medium term. Treasury bonds, longer term.
That's all that you have on this laptop?
Okay, it's not my laptop. Okay, all right, so, okay. If you're in the Bahamas and you are managing a bank, right? You are the chief executive officer of my favorite bank, Bank of the Bahamas, right? All of y'all are the chief executive officer of Bank of the Bahamas, right? Okay. Would you participate in the money markets in the Bahamas?
Yes,
Why?
because it's a good way to invest, because the banks itself aren't given any interest on fixed accounts or,
You are the CEO of a bank and you want to invest in treasury bills, right? Because the banks aren't giving interest, but you own the bank, you run the bank. I don't follow that one, Carla. Say that one again.
no, I said I would invest in the money market.
Mhm. You're the CEO of the bank. This is the bank's money
Mhm.
talking about. So you're going to invest in the money market. Okay. Right? So why would you do that?
I know, I need a line.
Okay. Miss Cartwright, Angelique Cartwright, Miss Kemp needs a lifeline.
Mhm.
Yes.
You're the chief executive officer of Scotiabank
What was the
Bahamas
question?
Limited.
Mhm.
You are the chief executive officer of Scotiabank Bahamas Limited. All right. Would you invest in money market instruments in the Bahamas? And why? If you do. If you say yes, why? Why would you invest in money market instruments?
Because I might be too liquid.
That's it?
I might be too liquid and need to invest my money in something to make a return, to make something to make money on.
Yeah. You gotta give me a little more than that. I know you know more than that, so give me more than that. Anyone could come up with that. If it's in the money market, if you're too liquid, what does that mean?
You have too much money in the bank. The bank has too much money.
Okay. All right. So the bank has got too much money. What do banks do with their money?
I need to
They lend it.
Okay. Let's go, Angelique. Angelique, come on. You gotta give me more than that.
How much more you want?
Who was that? Mia? You're running the bank. You say you're very liquid. You're going to invest the money into the money market in the Bahamas because it gives you an interest. Well, why not just buy something in the capital markets? Why not buy stocks? Right? Why not buy stocks? Why not? Why put it in the money market? There's got to be a better, a more fulsome reason as to why you want to do it. You're right, but you have to
To get a
expand
quick
on it.
Easy access?
It'll be shorter return.
It'll be short
You
term.
would not have to
The
wait
money
long
market.
for it.
The
Easy
capital market will
access.
be longer term.
All 3 of you are correct. And so you need to have that in there. It's okay. I didn't hear that. Who said that? Who said? Okay. First, it's short term. It's less than a year. You don't know if you're going to need the money. So it's a good place to park it for a couple of months, right? Yeah. So that's one good reason. It's short term. It's a quick investment because it's short term. You'll get your investment money back, your principal and interest back. Okay? Yeah? And if you put it in long term, right? What if you wanted to make loans? Okay? Do you make more money investing in the money market or investing in loans to your customers?
Loans to the customers.
Going to the air.
All right, Ms. Knowles, why?
Because you can, hold on, my mic on? Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Because you can charge them an interest rate.
but you're getting an interest return on your money when you invest
Yeah,
it in the
and
money
this,
market.
and this extra interest you're getting on top of that from them.
Go back to first principles, Ms. Knowles, right? Think about it like this.
Mhm.
If I invest the money in the money markets, I'm going to get what? A return commensurate
A
to,
higher return.
I'm not going to get higher returns. I'm going to get a return, right? Commensurate with the level of risk. Well, the money markets in the Bahamas consist of government registered stock. That means you're buying treasury bills, right? So if you're buying treasury bills, you're not getting a very high return. You may be getting 2%. How much do you make if you put the money into loans? The bank loans to consumers for cars, for furniture, for house, for land.
You make much more, 16%.
16%.
More.
Yeah.
So the difference is 16% on one hand versus 3% on the government hand. So you would invest as the CEO of a bank, you would invest in the money market for short term, right? Someplace to park the money until you could do what with it, Carla? Invest in them car loans.
Right.
Right? Until you could lend the money out in car loans. So you need to throw those sorts of answers in. Okay? It shows a better understanding and an appreciation of what we've been talking about. Okay? Into money markets. You put it into money markets, you get a low risk return, and it's a short-term investment. The funds are very easy to get out. It's very liquid, so you can get out of the money market instrument very quickly and turn around and put the money into loans that your bank makes that will give you a higher return. Yeah? So if you have a choice between lending money, investing your money, right, or lending it in this case to the government versus consumers, you take the consumers unless you don't know what you're doing.
Right.
Okay. All right. Okay. Now I have another question for you guys, and it's about money markets, right? So we understand that when the bank is liquid, it's a good place for us to park money temporarily. Okay. But why is a bank going to be liquid? Why would they have more money or so much cash? What causes that?
Too much deposits,
People bringing in deposits.
not enough loans.
And opening.
Not people putting in deposits and not enough loans. But the bank is in the business of giving loans.
Right.
So why aren't they making loans?
Maybe because of the crisis.
In the pandemic, Mr. Fountain.
The
All
pandemic.
of the things y'all are
Maybe-
saying, all of the things you're saying are good answers, but they're not enough depth. It's not enough insight. Okay, you have to think a little more about what you're saying. These are answers that your cousin on the corner talking to his boys could say or his girls could say. Right? Why is a bank liquid, very liquid? Because people bringing in deposits. Why aren't they lending the money out? Because of the pandemic? They don't have no one to lend it out? Lower the interest rate.
No, yeah, the interest rate is too high.
Well, if you want to sell something, right? If you want to sell your car and you can't sell it at $10,000, what's the price you would go to? Would you raise the price or drop the price?
Drop the price.
The person is injured.
So why aren't the banks dropping the interest rate?
Because I think all the banks have to be competitive against one another. So they don't want to drop their rate compared to other banks. But I know that's not the answer you're looking for.
That might be a very good answer, Carla,
But that
but it doesn't, does it stand up to analysis?
no.
Think about it, right? If I was running Bank of the Bahamas and I wanted to lend more money, right? I just drop my interest rates and either the rest of the banks follow suit or they don't.
In class, I'll call you back.
All right. So what I'm trying to drive at here is for all of y'all, you have to do a little more than just come up with answers that are on the front of your nose or on the surface. You need to do a little more. Okay. Yeah. You have to show that you understand some of these relationships. Okay. You know them, but you're not expressing them clearly enough. Okay. And if you can't do it here, what are you gonna do, right? When you're out there having a discussion with your girls out on the what you call it, the fish fry, and they talking about the banks, them, they don't lend money, this, that, and the other. How are you gonna defend your institution? Right, Mia? Right, Carla?
Yeah.
Y'all just agreeing with me. That's it. Okay. So, okay, if you are running a bank, okay, if you're running the bank and you're capable of running a bank, right, and you're very liquid, you can park the money into a money market investment temporarily. Okay, but your objective is to do what? Your objective is to lend the money out because, right, that is where you will make your best return. It's also what you do best, right? As a bank, you do best by lending out your own money. Okay. All right. Any questions about money markets? Okay. So I have a question for you, Miss Whitfield. Okay. What's monetary policy?
Monetary policy is what the central bank uses to influence, not interest rate. This is what they use to influence banks to do stuff, or something to do with the economy. I'm not sure.
Somebody help her out. Shawnette, Dominique, help her out.
But I know types of it. I know it's moral suasion. When they sell treasury notes and some other stuff.
Interest rate controls the borrowing of the household.
Okay, everybody stop for a minute. Always start with the foundation and the fundamentals. Okay? What is monetary policy? Monetary policy is any action by the government to what? Change the money supply. Increase the money supply or decrease the money supply. If you increase the money supply, you will have an expansionary economic policy. Hopefully, the economy will expand. If you decrease the money supply, right, you will have a recession, not recessionary, a contracting monetary policy. Okay. So right now, the banks in the Bahamas have a lot of liquid, are very liquid, have a lot of money, as we say in the Bahamas, right? Why doesn't the Central Bank of the Bahamas, right, reduce the money supply? That will contract the economy. Wouldn't that be better for the Bahamas? What do you all think?
Yeah.
Okay, why, Carla? Every time you say yes, I gotta ask you why. Every time you say no, I gotta ask you why. Because there's not good enough to say yes or
it
no.
would help the economy if the central bank was to get involved, because it would allow, let me see if I'm trying to think of it. It would allow the banks to operate more effectively in terms of reduced rates.
Possibly, sure. Okay. All right.
But
Now, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
One of the things that you guys need to, that helps you as you go forward in your careers, is to see a slightly bigger picture, right? It's to see a slightly bigger picture. Right now, the Bahamas is experiencing a pandemic, just like every other country in the world. We're also experiencing, right, no tourism, which is a major problem for us, okay? Yeah. So it is impacting, right, the central bank, because a main source of foreign currency is tourism, right? And the central bank wants to maintain stability, right, of the Bahamian dollar, as well as, right, they want to maintain stability so that we can attract more foreign direct investment. And we want to maintain stability because it impacts our standard of living. Okay, nobody in this country wants to see the exchange rate from Bahamian to US dollars go from
Increase.
1 to 1 to 15 to 1, 15 Bahamian dollars to 1 US dollar, even as much as 2 Bahamian dollars to 1 US dollars. You know what that'll do to your trip to Walmart, Mia? You know what that'll do to your trip to Walmart, Miss Fernanda? Right? When you think you got $5,000 or $2,000, right? That trip costs you twice as much in the Bahamas. Yeah. So these are things that the central bank needs to take a look at. Okay. Right. In today's newspaper, Mr. Marlon Johnson, I think his name is, the acting financial secretary of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, was talking about how the government is constrained by the financial environment. Okay. But he then said, even if though it's constrained, they still have some things that they could do, right? And one of the things they could do is raise your taxes.
They can raise the taxes. I mean, they could, but that's not a good idea to do.
Why not?
Because a lot of persons cannot even afford nothing else to come out of their salaries. Like
I
they
don't
won't
think
be
we
able to
need
eat.
tax increases. We need tax reform. They have to look, the VAT isn't working. They need to look at income tax.
Income tax. Okay, fair enough. All right. The VAT isn't working. We have to look. Would you pay, Ms. Whitfield, would you pay income tax? Are you willing to pay income tax?
Well, I don't have a choice. I wouldn't have a choice if they do it. But the thing is, if you taxing us only making maybe $1,500 a month, we pay the same tax that millionaires in Haiti make millions and millions of dollars.
They're not Bahamian citizens.
We have to tax people. We have a lot of millionaires who, if we tax their income, it might be a bit better, but I don't think the VAT working.
Okay, fair enough. So the acting financial secretary, right, says that there's a chance that maybe, we might have to raise the taxes, right? And if they raise the taxes, that's going to put a damper on our economy.
And then they need to think about reducing the primary. So if
Good idea.
if they raise the taxes, they could reduce the primary. So it'll balance it out.
I think we just
How
need
is
to
that
manage
gonna
our
work?
money better. We'll
Who's
always have
we?
this, when I mean me, I mean the way that the government spends. I just feel like the taxes can work if they just manage the money better. Because
Okay.
I mean,
So if
taxes.
you're in charge of the Bahamian economy, what would you cut out spending on? How would you save money? What would you get rid of? What wouldn't you spend money on?
Well, firstly, I would stop all of these persons who are retired and then are called back in and receiving like pension and salary at the same time. Like it does, I don't know if that makes sense.
Okay, so you would, once someone's retired, they're not coming back to work for the government as a consultant or anything like that.
No,
The
retired.
government won't pay them. Someone else could pay them, but not the government.
No, because I feel like that's why are they retired?
Yeah, because Mr. Fountain, some people actually do leave, especially the police officers and the defense force officers. Some of them leave and at 65, they go back, like they still go back into service and be getting paid.
No, the defense force just came on board last month. That just got passed. So that it was never them. It was only the police and the prison officers.
Okay. But
Even
that's
more
not,
so,
you think
Mr.
that's gonna make,
Fountain. Sorry,
ahead.
we have to make these members of parliament more accountable too for their spending, because they get like a stipend yearly or something, right?
Yeah, okay. But these
So
are small amounts, you know.
yeah, but
The
they
small
add up.
amounts. They're still small amounts. They don't even add up to 2% of the gross national product. It's very small. What about all the money the government has spent on education?
What about it?
Well, what about cutting the cost of education? What about cutting all the costs associated with the Ministry of Education?
Also,
We have a very large population of young people and they got to go to school. And the government says they have to go to school. That's what we as the Bahamian people want, right? So there are public schools all over the place. But what if you just cut back? Cut back on the teacher's salary, cut back on the number of school activities, cut back on anything.
I don't think that's feasible.
No.
You could have to find
Not for
another area.
education and health. No, I don't think
No.
those
I
two.
agree.
So
I don't agree with
where,
that one.
okay, so where would you find in the Bahamian economy, right, the place to cut these expenditures?
Transportation, with them buying all those COVID and police cars.
For real. Maybe, okay, let me, this is my personal opinion, right? And
That's the only opinion you have, you know.
I hope I don't offend anybody, but this has been a discussion amongst my coworkers and I, right? Where, okay, let's say, for example, for social services, right? A lot of persons rely, and this was even before the whole pandemic situation, okay? A lot of persons rely on social services to assist them and their families. But there is somewhat, I don't know if repeat offenders are too harsh, and I'm sorry if it is, but I can't find any other word right now. But we have persons who are not in a position to take care of themselves and take care of their families, but they constantly have children. Now, I know it was a point where the government doesn't want to impose on a female's right to reproduce, right? However, when it gets to the point where persons are constantly having children and relying on the government to take care of these children, shouldn't it be mandatory that certain persons go on birth control? Like, I mean, I'm trying to get it out of my head all at once.
Okay, well, I understand what you're trying to say. I hope what you're basically trying to say is, why should the government spend money on people, right? So via social services,
Right.
who have children basically that they can't take care of.
Right.
Yeah, that's reasonable enough. Okay. What I want all of you all to remember though is the biggest expenditures in the government budget, right, are on the basic stuff. It's not the people working and getting, not the police officers who are retired and getting a pension and a salary at the same time. They're not a large percentage, right? The large percentage is on all of the things that we take for granted. How many of you all paid your water bill in January? Your water is our water, not your water. Our water is subsidized. You don't pay the real price for water in this country. How much of us has paid? What did we went looked at what your electricity bill was? We don't pay the real price for electricity in this country, and it's high. It should be even higher.
You're gonna get me upset right now.
Okay, don't get upset.
Okay.
Why would you gonna get
I
upset?
think that the light bill is extremely high
Compared to who?
compared to the United States.
Do you know how many people live in the state of Florida alone compared to the entire Bahamas?
I agree. But what they
You know-
charge here per month for, what is it? I forget what the fees are called that they charge you every month. The service, the fuel charge?
The fuel surcharge.
Yes.
I pay that, by the way, too, you know,
For my
and I
pen.
think it's too high too. But I also know, right, it is low for this country. It should be higher.
Excuse me?
So, okay, yes,
How
Mia,
so?
it should be higher.
Excuse me, Mr.
Because,
Thompson, can you check your chat, please?
okay,
Thank you.
all right, let me see. I gotta find my chat. Oh, okay. Yes, I do. So you want me to respond to that? Yes, go on, Mia. You were saying something?
No, I just, that was a rebuttal to what you were saying that we don't pay enough. I feel like, okay, and I feel like this is a pet peeve for everyone, whereas we as the small man, right? Persons in their households. If our light bill goes over $500, we're cut off, right?
Mhm.
Places be in the hundreds of thousands, even in the millions, not paying, but they're not being shut off. And I just feel like there has to be a proper balance to how this works.
Yeah, okay. What you're doing makes sense, but what you're talking about is the individual or the little thing. Stop and look at the whole Bahamian economy. This course is about financial institutions, and we have been talking in the last lecture about monetary policy. And then we talked about money market instruments and so forth, right? Monetary policy. How do we go about contracting or expanding the economy? Okay, we don't need to know all the details, but we need to understand enough of it. And what I'm trying to get you to say, and Mia, you're quite right in looking at it like that. But what I'm trying to get you all to look at is just look at the slightly bigger picture. This is a country of less than 400,000 people. It's an archipelago, right? If you took 400,000 people and put them in Florida, one small power plant could take care of all the electrical demands for the next 30 years. Okay? One, just one. Okay? If you live in Rum Key, where there's like 60 people, right? You deserve, as a citizen of the Bahamas, to have electricity and potable water, but you have to put in an electrical plant. You have to supply it with fuel. If you live in Duncantown, Ragged Island, same thing, right? If you live in Agua or Long Island, same thing. These are the facts of life of our country. That's how much it costs. How do you get 50,000 gallons of diesel from Nassau, where you imported it, to Clarencetown, Long Island? You got to send it by boat, and you got to pay somebody to go do it. That's just the reality. You all agree?
Yes.
That's it. That's all I'm trying to get you all to do. Just think a little more beyond what's right in front of you. Yeah? Because you're trying to broaden your perspective. Okay? All right. Before we get too upset and Mia will stop thinking highly of me and gets mad with me, and Carla says we should do something else, and Ms. Knowles, just give me the look. We'll go to the lecture now. We do have a test tonight, right? The test will be sent to you, right? It's for half an hour, right? It's the same kind of test that you had before. The Word document that you will get, right? I just want you should be able to this time, right? Take the document, download it, right? Okay, and then put your answers right on the document, then turn around and send the document back to me by email. Okay, all right, so we are going to go to our shared screen. So everybody hold on a minute, please. Okay, so we're going to be talking about bonds. Okay. Okay. Now, in the previous lecture on last week, we talked about money market instruments. Okay. Now we're talking about bonds. And remember, bonds are long-term debt instruments. Okay. Bond is a long-term debt instrument. That means that when you issue a bond, the issuer is borrowing the money for 20 out to 30 years. That's a long time, right? Okay. That takes place in the capital markets because the capital markets is where you have long-term securities trading, okay? That means, right, that if you look at it from the capital market perspective, right, anything traded there, right, employ a long-term rather than a short-term perspective. So, caller, if you were the chief executive officer of Commonwealth Bank and the bank was liquid and had plenty of money, you would not put your money into bonds because in the capital market, because it would be a little more difficult for you to get the money out again. And even though it's a longer term, it's still on average not going to pay a higher return than you would get if you invest the money or put the money into your own loans. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Now, these facilities facilitate the flow of long-term debt, right? And equities from surplus units to deficit units. Now, let's make sure you understand what I'm talking about here, okay? It facilitates the flow of long-term debt. So now, Carla getting ready to retire in about another 20 years, okay? And she decides, no, that's the wrong way to do it. Carla decides, right, having talked to Colette, right, and Miss Whitfield, that she wants to put aside some money, right, for her children to go to college, right? So she decides, she asks them, what can she put the money into? Okay, the children are 2 or 3 years old. She know they're smart, they going to college, right? She just got to be able to make sure that in 18 to 20 years, the money is ready for them, okay? What do you recommend or you suggest for her, Colette and Miss Whitfield, for her to invest in? Ms. Knowles, Colette, Ms. Whitfield, what's your suggestion?
Well, I guess I'd suggest that she invest in bonds because the maturity date, it's a long-term investment and it'll be the appropriate appropriate route to take. If she doesn't
Appropriate time frame.
So yeah, 20,
Okay.
20 to 30 years.
Okay. But if she does that, will she get any, in 20 years, will she get principal and interest, or will she just get her principal back?
Principal and interest when it matures.
How does a bond work, Ms. Whitfield? Don't you get the interest right, on the face value of the bond every year or every 6 months, and at maturity you get just the principal back?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, maybe
So,
she should just invest in like an annuity or something.
you know what?
Like an annuity or something where each month or each year she pays a certain amount of money.
Exactly. That's a good investment, an excellent investment. And is it going to be long term?
Yes, it could be long term.
Very good. So that's an excellent choice. A bond isn't a bad choice either, right? Ms. Knowles, what do you think? Ms. Knowles, you there? Or you going off walkabout? Okay, while you're waiting for Ms. Knowles, Anthony, Ms. Russell, what do you suggest? What would be your suggestion for Ms. Kemp?
I could tell her invest in the bonds. She could receive her interest every 6 months and just let it, accumulate. And then at the end of the term or the maturity date, when her children ready for college, she get a principal and plus the interest and she have her money.
Good. Okay, that could work as well. What about putting it into common stock? Aren't they long-term securities? Anybody? Ms. Cartwright, would you put the money into common stock?
No, I wouldn't.
Okay, what would you suggest to Carla to put her money into? Savings account, fixed term deposit? No.
I would say a savings account at the credit union.
Okay, why a credit union?
Because I think they pay the most interest, and then they have nowadays they have like where you put a certain amount of money and then you get the interest off and you leave that money. It's something that they have that I was interested in trying to go get for my son.
Okay, great. All right. Okay, now everyone who's given an answer, any of those things can work. Obviously, Ms. Kemp would have to make up her mind which one would be best for her. Okay? The point is, though, they're all long-term securities, and they're traded on the capital market if they're going to be traded. Okay? And you could see where Ms. Kemp is saving towards a long-term goal, right? So to do that, she has put the money through the capital markets and is lending it in some way, shape, or form to deficit units. You understand that? Okay? With the idea that in 20 years, she'll be able to get the money and pay for her children's college. Okay? That's what I'm trying to make sure you guys understand. It's not just invest here and there. These are things that you and I can do, right? If you choose to do them, obviously, and if it suits your financial means, all right? Okay, so we talk about bonds for the moment, okay? So capital market securities, these are securities that are traded on the capital markets. Bonds. Bonds are long-term debt securities issued by government agencies, or corporations. A bond issuer makes periodic interest payments and the principal is paid at maturity. Bonds are usually unsecured. Now, let's talk about bonds issued by the government. Can I buy a Bahamian dollar, a bead dollar bond issued by the government? Anybody? Anybody? Yes, no, maybe so? Come on, Miss Knowles, you usually know the answers to these questions.
Yeah, you could, and that's what they have in the newspaper.
Yeah, of course.
They usually have them for a period of time, I think, and when they're available.
Yeah. So I could buy a bond from the government. It would be a Bahamian dollar bond issued by the Bahamas government. Okay. Could I buy a US dollar bond issued by the Bahamas government? Anybody?
No,
Okay. That's Carla. Gotta be. Carla, that was you?
no, that's Angelique.
Angelique. So what you're saying then is the Bahamas government does not issue bonds in foreign currencies, in a currency other than Bahamian dollars. Anybody agree or disagree with that?
I agree.
Yeah, I agree. I think so.
Think about what you just said. The Bahamas government, right, will not issue a US dollar bond.
No, I think they would because they have US accounts and all that here. So if those persons, I don't know, yeah, that.
Well, let me ask you all a question, okay? And anyone can answer this. If BEC wanted to increase its generating capacity, right, by basically getting more generators, which currency are they going to pay the supplier in?
US dollars.
Okay. So where are they going to get these US dollars from? Just take it out of the tourist dollars that are coming in? How
No,
much do you think a new generating plant costs?
millions.
2 million, 3 million, 100 million, 50 million? What do you think? Okay, I
About
can,
23 million.
that's pretty good, right? More on the order of like $40 million, but 23 million isn't bad. The point I want to make here is, right? This is the point. The point I want to make here is the government of the Bahamas has to issue US dollar bonds because it is going to need those US dollars to finance, right, infrastructure in the Bahamas because you can't pay people in Bahamian dollars, right, if they're coming from outside, right? It's that simple. And most countries, small countries in particular, would have to do that. So, excuse me, what am I saying? What I'm saying is that these long-term debt securities can be issued in Bahamian dollars as well as in foreign currencies, right? And they can be issued by governments. We can have government agencies. We have something called bridge bonds in this country, right? When the bridges were being built, the government issued bonds, okay? And they used the money raised by the issuance of the bonds to construct the Paradise Island bridges, okay? You can have bonds issued by corporations, okay? There are very few bonds. I don't think there's any publicly traded company that's issued any bonds here in the Bahamas. However, companies in the States issue bonds all the time. Walmart, Avis, right? American Airlines, Citibank, they all issue bonds. And an average amount that a bond would be more like $300 to $500 million. That's the sort of size that a bond issue would be. Okay. The other thing that's traded on the capital markets are equities or stocks. Okay. And securities such as common stock or preferred. That's spelled wrong. Right. These common stock represent ownership in the business as well as preferred stock, but not quite in the same manner as common stock. Okay? Okay. So we were looking at bonds, right? And as I'm talking, you could use your text to find chapter 7, page 150. Page 150, exhibit 7X, 7.1 and 7. Page 151, exhibit 7.2. Okay? Now, bonds are issued in the primary market and are traded in the secondary market. Okay? If you look at the BISX website, you will see that there are Bahamian dollar government bonds trading on BISX that you could buy and sell if you own them.
Mr. Founder,
Yes.
what you say? I'm trying to find it because in my book is a different number.
Okay.
Which
We're
bond?
talking about, you're talking about
How bonds market facilitate? No?
7.1, exhibit 7.1. Just get there.
Remember our book's different?
Yeah, but the
You are
exhibit
both.
will be the same.
Oh,
7.1 is, it's called How Bond Markets Facilitate the Flow of Funds.
oh,
That's what
got
you're
it.
looking at.
That's on page 158.
Okay,
Yeah, 160.
Okay.
all right. So, excuse me. So what you've got is bonds being issued in the primary market, traded in the secondary market, right? Bahamas government bonds are traded on BISX. If you go to the website or even in the newspaper, you will see government bonds being traded there, okay? And all types of financial institutions participate in the bond market, okay? They participate as issuers of the bond as well as purchasers of the bond, okay? Especially in the United States, that's the case. In the Bahamas, right, there is a certain amount of that done by the financial institutions here, but they tend to be on the shorter term maturities as opposed to the longer term maturities. So take a look at Exhibit 7.1, and if you look at it, it's a pretty simple exhibit, but what it does is it gives you a very good idea of how households and institutional investors use the bond market, okay? So household and institutional investors take dollars to buy treasury bills. That's you and me going into the central bank and purchasing government registered stock, okay? And that money then goes to the government, right, that they can spend on anything they want to spend it on, okay? They spend it on government programs, they can send it on civil service salaries, they can send it on education, BEC, BTC, whatever the hell they want, okay? You can also take your dollars and buy federal agency bonds. Now in our exhibit, that would be something like if you bought the bridge bonds, because they are an agency. The Bridge Authority, the Bahamas Bridge Authority is an agency of the government, okay? Another example would be if NAD, right, Nassau Airport Authority, were to issue airport development, or what, I forget, but what's the D in NAD? Nassau Airport
Development.
Development, okay. So if they were to issue bonds, they would be classified as, right, bonds like agency bonds, okay? Because they are owned by the Bahamas government, okay? Then we can have municipal bonds, and these are bonds that are issued by individual cities or towns in the United States, or municipalities we would call them. The closest thing we would have to that would be if Freeport or Abaco, Marsh Harbor, Abaco were to issue bonds themselves in their own name, okay? So in the context of Florida, right, municipal bonds would be something like Dade County issuing bonds or Broward County issuing bonds, okay? And they all do this. Of course, it's not for 300 million, right? And it could be used for anything from building schools to roads. It can be used for things like social development programs and so forth. Okay, and then we could buy corporate bonds. Now this is the one that is the biggest, not the biggest market, but it is the most, it has the most depth and the most variety, because every type of corporation that's publicly traded could potentially issue bonds. All they need to do is meet the requirements to do so. Okay, so that is how you would see, that's how, right, the money can go from you as a surplus unit, or you having money to go and place the money with into the capital markets to purchase a bond, and the recipient would get the bond and then turn around and use it as they see fit. Of course, it's not quite so broad as that, right? The recipient has the borrower, the issuer of the bond, who is also the borrower of the funds, would still have to let you know in their prospectus what it is they're going to be using the money for. Okay? And now, if you look at the second one, Exhibit 7.2, right? This is participation of financial institutions in the bond market. You will see that just about every type of financial institution you could think of participates in the bond market. Commercial Banks and Savings and Loans Association. That's FinCo, that's Royal Bank of Canada, that's Scotia, that's Royal Fidelity, all of them, okay? Finance companies, okay? Leno is a finance company, right? Colina Seafile are finance companies of sorts, right? They use bonds. They go into the bond market to buy bonds on behalf of their customers, okay? And they also issue bonds to finance their activities, okay? Mutual funds, right? Okay. They take the money received from their investors or the members of the mutual fund, right, and use that to invest in bonds. And we actually have things called bond funds, which are mutual funds dedicated only to to purchasing bonds. Okay. Then you have brokerage firms. They facilitate the bond trading. So if you wanted to buy a Bahamian dollar government bond on BISX, you don't go to the central bank, you go to CFIL or Royal Fidelity, and they will purchase it on your behalf. Of course, it's for commission. Okay, insurance companies, pension funds. One of the biggest purchasers of bonds in the world are pension funds. Okay, are pension funds, because it matches the maturities they need. If I buy a bond, right, on January 1st, 1990, right, and January 1st, 1980, it would have matured in 20 years, right? Okay, let's say. So if I was holding that bond for 20 years, I would get interest off of that bond, and then at the end of 20 years, I would get my money back, my principal back. Okay, so for a pension fund, that's fantastic, because what do they have to do? During those 20 years, they have to meet all the cash requirements that their members, right, demand. You retire, every month the pension fund pays you so much money. So that money has to come from somewhere. They use the income from the bonds to do that. So you can see the benefit of how bonds will allow us, deficit as well as surplus units, right, by using the capital markets and investing or issuing bonds, right, will allow us to recirculate that money that's sitting in Ms. Kemp's account, waiting for her to take care of the children's college education. Okay, so that's the basis of how bonds will work. Any questions? Ask, or forever hold your peace. Anybody? Okay. Okay. So we can look at different types of government bonds, treasury notes and bonds issued to fund national government expenditures. Okay, treasury notes and bonds. Right, in the Bahamas, that's government registered stock for different maturity dates. You know, from 1 year, 6 months out to 1 year to 15 years and so forth. And you can buy them yourself. You can go into the central bank and purchase them. Okay? Savings bonds. Okay, they offer security and monthly interest to small investors. My mother-in-law, right, bought Canadian savings bonds, right, when her children were young. And she used that money, right, to finance their education. Okay, she just kept buying, taking her savings and slowly but surely buying more and more savings bonds. They offer a slightly higher rate of interest, right, and the principal, right, is available to her in 15, 20 years, and she used that to send her children to college. Okay, municipal bonds, we talked about these already. These are issued by municipalities or local government entities. Okay, now a lot of the times the money raised by these municipal bonds can only be used in that municipality. Well, not a lot of times, all the time. Okay? And so this is the type of stuff that's used to fund things like park developments, to fund libraries, to fund schools, right? To get the water treatment systems to expand the garbage disposal sites at the local in these local municipalities. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Then we have corporate bonds, and these are placed through public offering or private placement. Okay. Now, I'm going to stop here for a minute, and I'm going to ask a couple of questions. If the Bahamas, if Abaco Markets, which is publicly traded on BISX, right? This is the Fresh Market and the Solomon's group of companies. Yeah. If they issued a bond for 50 million Bahamian dollars, let's say, okay, make it more realistic, for 25 million Bahamian dollars. Okay. Who would get the money? What did they do? How would you describe that to your cousin, Auntie Chad? Did they get the money themselves? Right? Did they do something else? You know, did they give the money to somebody? How did that work? Somebody explain it to me.
Say it again one more time, Mr. Fountain, please.
Okay. Who is if Abaco Market goes and issues a bond for $25 million, who's the borrower and who's the lender? Because the bond is debt, right?
Right.
So who's the borrower and who's the lender?
The borrower would be who issued the bond. That's who did you say just now?
Abaco Markets.
Abaco Market.
They would be the
borrower.
Okay. So who's the lender?
Whoever purchases the bonds.
Correct. Okay. After the bond has been issued, right, and they're going to pay interest semi-annually, right, that means who is going to pay out the money and who is going to receive the money?
Abaco Markets will pay out the interest and we would receive it.
We being the person who purchased
the bond, right.
Okay. All right. And what would the payment be? Any idea? Not the percentage, but it would be fixed, wouldn't it?
What you mean payment, like what is paid back?
Well, since Abaco Market is going to pay the interest, right? There must be some way to tell people what the interest is going to be, right? Abaco Market borrowed the money, right? We, the people who bought the bonds, are the lenders, and they agree to pay us interest once a year, right? So they turn around and cut a check and give us some interest, right? How did we know that how much interest is supposed to be paid?
It would have, we would know based on the terms they would offer the.
Exactly. And we call the interest rate the coupon rate on a bond. It's called a coupon rate. Okay? So that's just a little bit of how a bond works. And you guys need to know how a bond works. Okay? You can't say, I'm going to issue a bond or they could invest in a bond. You have to say how it works as well. Okay? All right. So we're going to go through a public offering of, well, not go through it in depth, but talk about a public offering of a bond. This means that Abaco Market is issuing a bond to the public. Okay? Or Walmart is issuing a bond to the United States. Sorry, to the U.S. public. That means it's going to go across a market, okay, a capital market. So the first thing is the Abaco markets must meet the regulatory requirements, right, laid down by the Securities Commission in the Bahamas, because they're issuing it to the public, okay? Yeah. And then they have to use a security firm to underwrite the issue. Okay, they can't just go out there and say we can issue a bond, we've met all the requirements, fine, that's it. They have to use a securities firm to underwrite the issue, because the securities firms are the people that are members of the SEC and the markets. Okay, if you do a public offering of a bond, it is time consuming. If you decide on January 1st, 2021, that you're going to issue a bond to the Bahamian public, right? You will be very, very lucky if that bond was issued by September 1st, 2021, 9 months later. Okay? It could take even longer. Yeah? So it's not something that you do quickly, and it's not something that it can be done quickly, and it's not something that you just do on a whim, because it's expensive to do as well. Okay? So you have to offer it to the public. It's expensive, it's time consuming. It will raise the maximum amount of money that you can, that you want to get, your 25 million, and it can be widely distributed. Okay? Because anybody who has the money can come in and purchase some of the bond, a piece of the bond is what we call it. Okay? Now, if you do a private placement of a corporate bond, which happens more here in Nassau than a public offering, okay, you still have to meet regulatory requirements set down by the Securities Commission, but you don't have to register the bond, okay? That means you don't have to meet all of the requirements, okay? Because you're not selling it to the public. There are certain principles you have to meet, so forth. Okay, you offer it to a select group. So usually the people who would be in that select group would be the managers of pension funds, okay, mutual fund managers, okay, investment firms that have customers that are looking for long-term investments. So when I was in the offshore business with Barclays and with Butterfield Bank, right, a lot of my customers like to buy US dollar bonds because, right, they could put their $10 million or their $3 million there and get a return on it that's fixed for the next 10, 15 years. Yeah. and it's simple, and it's not very, how to put it, you don't have to spend a lot of time watching it, okay? So they loved private placement of bonds. Okay?
All the
If they
people
could get
who
into
were
that.
in attendance, of everyone who was invited to that first meeting should also be invited to the follow-up meeting. Yeah. That's, you know, that's the only way to make it fair. How you get me?
Yes, but Tanya was the one to say she wanted me there, you know.
But hard to be absent. She is the absent-minded with everything. So I don't even know why she asked. She can't do it on her own.
But she ain't make no, this meeting ain't made no relative.
So, Miss Knowles, you think you could turn your mic off?
I wonder where all this was coming from just now.
Okay, so we'll continue on. So, a private placement, you offer the bond to a small select group. It's less expensive. It's relatively fast. Instead of taking 9 months to a year, it will only take maybe 6 months. You raise a smaller amount and you get minimum distribution. In other words, it's not out to the public, so it's only to the people who you've invited to purchase. Okay? It's very attractive to insurance companies, pension funds, and bond mutual funds. Very, very attractive. Okay? And if we had more of those here, the insurance companies, pension funds would load up on them. Okay? Now, when you get ready to issue a bond, you have to take care of something called a bond indenture. And this specifies the rights and obligations of the issuer and bondholders and must meet all the regulatory requirements. So, because you're issuing debt, because the bond is debt, you have to meet all the laws regarding the issuance of debt. So you can't charge you can't have a usurious rate. That's against the law in the Bahamas, you know? Okay? You have to be able to produce financial statements, audited financial statements. Okay? You have to be able to tell the people where the money is going to be used, and you must have concrete places where it's going to go. You can't tell them it's going to go to Bill Roads and you use it to buy a trip to Las Vegas and go gambling. Okay? Another thing you have to do is you have to appoint a bond trustee. Okay? And this is a requirement by the regulators. That means basically there is somebody who is going to act on behalf of the bondholders, right? By legislative instruction. Okay, and usually bond trustees are people like accountants and lawyers and so forth. Because they represent the bondholders, they have to be, how to put it, savvy about finance and accounting and the law regarding these types of things with bonds. Okay. Okay. Now we're talking about characteristics of corporate bonds. Bonds are not standardized. So when you all say to me a bond, and I ask you what kind of bond, and what are the terms and conditions of the bond and so forth, those are the things that are not going to be the same. A bond generally is just a long-term debt security. That's all it is. But each bond has a couple of features or a combination of features that can make it more or less unique. Okay? So, what are the things that can change in a bond, right? Well, go back to the characteristics of debt. The principal amount, of course, the maturity date, the payment terms or the coupon payment terms, right? Rate time, principal rate time, right? And the maturity as to when it's going to be repaid, okay? Now, one of the most common features that you have in a bond nowadays is called a sinking fund feature, of seeking fund provision. And this is where this requires the issuer to retire a certain amount of the bond each year. So if he issued $25 million in bonds, right, after 5 or 10 years, right, whatever the bond indenture says, the issuer has to start putting aside money, right, to retire the bond, a portion of the bond prior to maturity. Okay? Or they could just put aside the money and have it there building up ready for maturity. Okay? Or they can set aside a certain amount each year to repay the principal at maturity. Okay? That's called a sinking fund, and it's a very common feature. And it makes the bondholder, the person who's buying the bond, feel good because they know that the money is going to be there to do what? Pay them off, right? Either early or pay them off at the end of the year. The cash will actually be there. Then we have something called protective covenants, right? And these are restrictions that the issuer, that's the best way to put it. These are restrictions that the bond holders via the trustee, right, and the investment banker, right, place on the issuer. And it's designed to protect bondholders from increasing risks, right? One of the biggest ones is that the company can't issue dividends, because if they issue dividends, there is less money to be used to pay off the bond interest or to pay the bond principal. Okay. One of the things that happens in the United States, some of these companies, is simple. They issue the bond and then they take the proceeds and they do something with it, which is all agreed, okay? And then they all give themselves a big salary, right? Or they give themselves a big bonus, okay? And they use the proceeds of the bond to pay that, okay? So the issuer, right, has to agree to some of these protective covenants because that's what the bondholder wants, and that's being pushed by the bond trustee, okay? Now, this one called the call feature, this allows the issuer to redeem the bond prior to maturity at a specific premium. So what happens is the bond is for 25 years, right? They say that they can call the bond within the first 5 years. And if they do that, the issuer chooses to call the bond, he has to pay a slight premium, right, to the bondholders for allowing him that feature or covenant, that feature really, okay? So straightforward, nice and easy, a call feature. Now in finance, all of this would translate into some kind of money, but we're not doing finance here, so you don't have to worry about the calculations or anything like that. You could actually fall asleep now and don't even think about it. And all of y'all whose eyes are falling, lids are slowly closing, right? Miss Kim?
You can hear me?
I can hear you. You're not sleeping, right?
No, I'm up.
Okay. Miss Russell, you sleeping?
No, I up.
Great. Mia, that couch, feeling comfortable?
How you know you're on my couch, Mr. Fountain?
Because you're always on your couch. Okay. All right. So these are some of the things that we have in a bond. And then you can have collateral in a bond. Okay. And this is specific collateral security for the bond only. It is not general collateral. It is specific to the bond. So the bondholders have a claim on a specific piece of collateral security. Specific piece of collateral security. Okay. Of all the features that we talked about, the two most common ones are the sinking fund and the call feature. Okay. All right. The sinking fund, right, Bondholders love that because it shows that the money, when it's being made by the company, will be used to redeem the bond. The call feature, the bondholders do not like that because if the bond has got a nice high interest rate, but interest rates in the next 2 to 3 years fall, then the issuer will probably call the bond before maturity. So instead of getting 12%, when they reissue the bond, you may only get 6%. So bondholders don't like that. Okay? And that is why they demand a premium, right? If you're going to have a call feature in your bond indenture. Okay. Now, another type of bond is what we call a zero coupon bond. And this is a bond issued at a deep discount from par value, right? And no interest is paid over the life of the bond. So, Ms. Whitfield, if you were a bondholder, if you were an investor, would you buy a zero coupon bond? It doesn't pay any interest. So how are you going to make any money if it don't pay no interest?
Maybe I need a lifeline.
Well, pick somebody besides me.
I'll pick Miss Alden.
Great choice. Ms. Alton.
Girl, you like pick on me?
You always on my screen. It's on my only show me you, Miss Campan.
You say why would I choose this if I'm an investor?
Yeah. It doesn't pay any interest. So how are you going to make any money?
I wouldn't choose this if I'm an investor.
Why not?
Because I'm not making any money back from it.
I didn't say you weren't making any money. It said it didn't pay any interest.
So how else would you make the money?
Read what it says. Bonds issued at a deep discount from par. What does that mean? Anybody, what does that mean?
So it's almost okay. So
it's purchased more than what it really is, or something like that.
So you purchase it for $9, but you could get 1,000.
Correct, Miss Knowles.
Oh yeah.
But not just at 9, not 900. It's a deep discount. So maybe you purchase it for $750.
Right.
Okay, and you get 1,000 back at maturity. Yeah. So you would have made, right, $250,000. Oh. 250. Okay. Yeah.
So in some cases, it's not better than paying, no, depending on the amount.
Wouldn't that be really great if you had to pay taxes on that interest? If you had to pay taxes on that interest that you received over the life of the bond because it's income, but if you bought a zero coupon bond, the profit that you made would not be interest, it would be capital gains, which would be at a taxed at a lower rate. So for people with tax situations to consider, a zero coupon bond investment might be quite good. So Ms. Vitriel, you willing to buy this bond? Or are you still going to defer to Ms. Alton? She said no.
I'll buy the bond.
Okay, because you're going to make something. And if you're in a high tax bracket, it may work for you. Okay, right? We also have bonds that are floating rate or variable rate bonds. It works just like a floating rate or variable rate loan. There's a base rate, right? Okay, and the coupon rate is adjusted periodically based on changes in the base rate. So one of the base rates that they use is U.S. Treasury bills, right? The 90-day or the 180-day U.S. Treasury bond rate is used. The Treasury bill rate is used as the base rate, and then they put a margin on top of that. Okay, So it works similar to a floating rate loan. Okay, this is for the calculation of the interest only. Okay. Then there's something called a convertible bond. And this allows the holder to convert the bond to a stated number of common stock. This is also a popular bond, right, for corporations, okay, because it's a way for them to get out of actually repaying the principal, because they convert the bond to stock and the value of the stock has gone up. So the customer, the bondholder, is quite happy with that. Okay, and the return that they would get would be higher than the return they would get on the bond. So that is in there, and you see that a lot, but it's hardly ever used. You don't have to convert it. It can be converted. Okay. Now, the next thing we have in a bond is called the bond rating. Okay. Any ideas as to what a bond rating is? Anybody?
Why you change that, Mr. Fountain?
Because the answer is right there.
Pretty much lets you know if it's a good idea to even invest in that particular bond or something like that.
Not quite. You can use it like that, but it's not quite like that. The bond rating is
Isn't that like AAA, BBB, CCABC, something like that?
Absolutely, it is exactly like that. But what does it mean?
That's the bond, that has something to do with bond credit rating. What the question was again?
It's good to pour. It's like AA is good, and then ABBC is poor. The bonds are junk bonds.
That's the credit rating and its worthiness.
That's correct, Martine. That's correct, Ms. Knowles. Right? But let us be a little bit. No. Slow down. Let us be a little bit more accurate. Okay? Right? A bond rating is a grade given to bonds that indicate their credit quality. Okay?
They dry.
So it tells you about the risk of default.
Nothing was in the dryer.
When we talk about credit quality, we're talking about the risk of default, right? So the person with the lowest risk of default is considered to be a really good credit. Now, if you work in a bank, especially in loans, you're used to that principle quite a bit. You see it quite a bit, okay? For a bond, right, if you are an investor, unless you have a bond rating, you have no idea of the quality or the credit quality of the issuer, right? Yeah. You got it? So a third party called a bond rating service or a rating service, such as Standard & Poor's, Moody's, Investor Services, Fitch Ratings, Inc., do an evaluation on an analysis on the issuer, okay? And these analysis look at the issuer's financial strength and health. They're looking to see what is the chance that the issuer will default, will not be able to make the interest payments, right? And then the principal payment. In a bond, if you do not make your interest payment when it's due, you automatically go into default. Okay? Yeah? So you can see that the bond ratings affect the pricing, the yield, and a reflection of the long-term outlook of the company. right? So that bond rating is really, really important because, right, it's a grade that you give to bonds, actually the issue of the bonds, that indicate their credit quality, their risk of default. The best rating is usually considered to be AAA. The worst rating is, let's just say, triple Z at the moment, okay? But basically, bonds are cut into two basic rating areas: investment grade and junk. Investment grade, right? We'll see, right? That's not the best investment grade, but it's still investment grade. And then the junk is everything after triple C, okay? Now, sometimes you'll hear junk bonds referred to as high yield bonds. It's the same thing. Basically, the issuer is riskier, so there, because the risk is higher, the bond, right, rating is lower, and the investor knows that they are going to need to get a higher return to compensate for the additional risk. Comfortable with what a bond rating is?
Mr. Function, there's a lot of information,
Yeah, it is.
But thank you so much.
It's in your chapter 2.
Yeah.
Okay, it's about bonds, and this is only the tip of the iceberg. You ain't even doing none of the calculations. In my finance class at the University of the Bahamas, right, we do bonds, and you have to do the calculations. So all of this stuff that you're reading here, that you're seeing here, it's just a little bit. So let's go again. Any questions on bond ratings? Anything you're not sure, you're not 100%? Okay. So if a bond rating gives a grade to the bonds that indicates their credit quality, that means you're actually looking at the issuer, right? You all agree? The analysis is done on the issuer. So you think that since the Bahamas government issues foreign currency bonds as well as domestic currency bonds, those bonds have any type of grade or rating, especially the foreign currency one? Anybody?
Doesn't like, while they look at the stability of the country to figure, because if you're bringing in our external investors, wouldn't the stability of the government be a factor or no?
Of course, absolutely. But the question is, do bonds issued by governments in foreign currency, and in this particular instance, the Bahamas government, will it have a bond rating?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely, yes. Absolutely. Because if you were an American or Canadian and you wanted to buy this bond for your mutual fund issued by the Bahamas government, you would want to know what the credit rating is of the Bahamas government, wouldn't you?
Yes.
Okay. Absolutely. And since that's what you would want to know, you bet they better provide it. If not, no one's going to buy the bond. Just because you issued a bond doesn't mean someone's going to buy it, you know. Yeah? Remember, you're issuing debt and someone has to buy that debt or basically lend you the money, in other words. So the point that I want to make here is this bond rating is really, really important. Okay? How many of you all have over the last sort of 3, 4, 5 years, right, read articles in the newspaper on the news about the Bahamas being downgraded in its ratings? Anybody remember that? What was that all about? Anybody? Ms. Knowles, what was that about?
Wasn't that tied to the instability of our government? And no, and the
our
bat,
government
no,
is pretty stable.
the bat, wasn't that tied to the bat?
Yeah,
Okay,
it was tied to the VAT.
and
But
because they
you
couldn't
think-
give an account for where the money was going and it was being requested. No? Okay, but it was tied to VAT.
It was tied to VAT because VAT is a tax. The
Right.
question I have for Ms. Fernanda,
Okay,
because I just see Ms. Fernanda, right? Do you think that the Bahamas is reviewed by the rating agencies because it issues bonds in foreign currencies? The Bahamas government, do you think it's
Sir,
reviewed?
no,
do?
I don't.
Yes? You don't? Okay, so if the Bahamas government, we already agreed that the Bahamas government issues US dollar bonds. How would you, as a potential investor in those bonds, find out about the credit worthiness, right, or the credit quality of the Bahamas government, their default risk, the risk that they may not pay you, your interest? How would you find out about that?
I think I probably missed something. I stepped away. I'm sorry.
So you missed something in my most
Yeah,
exciting class.
Sorry.
All right. Okay. Right. Well, let's make it simpler then. Moody's, Standard & Poor's. Moody's is the one that does the Bahamas, I think. Standard & Poor's as well. Periodically, they send a team of people out here and they talk to the people in the Ministry of Finance. They talk to people in business. They talk to some of the banks around, the head of the central bank for sure. So they get an idea of what's happening in the country, okay? But they also go through the Bahamas government's annual reports, okay? And based on that information that they gather in their visits, as well as going through the annual government accounts report, right? They come up with a rating for Bahamas government debt. And actually, the Bahamas government rating has gone down. It's just above junk status. So, if that's the case, Ms. Fernanda, do you think the Bahamas government is going to have to pay a higher rate of interest to issue bonds or a lower rate of interest if they have a lower or their rating has gone down to almost junk bond?
So they would probably have to pay a lower rate.
Okay, let's try this again because that answer is not correct.
Oh.
All right. The rating
it wasn't
has
me,
gone down.
So if it went, okay, so
the
they would
rate
have to
goes
pay.
down, so the interest
higher.
goes up.
Ms. Knowles, hold on. Let's talk with Ms. Fernanda for a second. Go ahead, Ms. Fernanda.
No, I was looking at it from a different way. So they would have to pay a higher rate
Ah,
Right. Why would it have to be higher?
because their interest went down.
I hope when you rub this up, it ain't in my bed or nothing or do. You
Ms.
close that
Ferguson,
up, fall
turn
asleep.
the mic off. Okay, so Ms. Fernanda, if the rating goes down, what does that mean? It means, right, that the credit worthiness has gone down. It means that there is a greater risk that they may not be able to pay, right?
Yeah.
Make the interest payments on their bond. Okay. So if they are more risky than a bond issued by the government of Jamaica, right? So the rating for the bond issued by Jamaica is BBB, and the one issued by the Bahamas government is CCC. Which one will you take? You take the one that has the higher rating because it has the least risk. But because it has less risk, the interest rate will be lower, right?
Yeah.
On the bond. In other words, the higher the risk, right? The higher the coupon payment. Okay? So let me put it in another way. Okay?
Yeah.
Your sister's boyfriend is a lawyer and he makes $150,000 a year. Okay? Right? And your friend's cousin, Mr. Fountain, right, is a banker and only makes $80,000 a year. Okay? Which one is going to be considered to be the least risky to the bank?
The one,
The one with
the one who
the
makes
least amount.
Yeah.
The one who makes the least amount is considered to be more risky. There's a greater chance that that person will default and not meet their interest payments. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this is theory. This isn't real life. This is theory. Okay? Right? So if I wanted to rate the lawyer and the banker, I would rate the lawyer as AAA and the banker as CCC. Okay? So as if I was lending them the money, I would charge the CCC guy, the banker, a higher interest rate on the loan. Okay? It might only be half a point, maybe 1 point, but I would charge him a higher rate. The lawyer would get the lowest rate of the two. Okay? Make sense?
Yeah. No. Working out.
Okay. That's based on the fact that one makes 150,000 and the other one makes 80,000. Yeah?
Yeah.
Countries are the same. Now this is for everybody. Countries are the same. So the bond investor needs to know which one, right? Which country, right, has the greatest risk or the greatest chance of defaulting, right? And if he invests in that one, he is going to demand a higher return in the form of a higher interest rate. The Bahamas has been downgraded to just marginally above junk bond. If they issue a US dollar bond for $300 million, that interest rate is going to be higher. The interest rate they're going to have to pay is going to be higher than for a country that has a higher bond rating. Okay? In other words, if that person is greater than junk bond, significantly greater. Okay? This has actually happened to the Bahamas. Right? This scenario I just described has actually happened in the Bahamas. Moody's came in, they downgraded the Bahamas, the cost of issuing the debt has gone up, and the Bahamas is now finding itself in a bit of a pickle because the higher the interest rate, right, the more you got to pay out. The more you pay out, the more money that you have to take from somewhere else. Okay? So, Ms. Fernanda, you following what I'm saying about bond ratings?
Yeah, I'm following.
Okay, everybody else? Mia, I calling you Ms. Whitfield, Ms. Russell, Ms. Cartwright. Y'all understand this? So when y'all read the paper and it says Bahamas government downgraded again, you should be going, uh-oh, uh-oh. Okay? If you read the paper and it says the Bahamas government bonds have been downgraded to junk, and you go, uh-oh, you going, uh-oh, because that could impact the value, the exchange rate between the Bahamian dollar and the US, which means it will impact your trip to Walmart. Just in case y'all were listening, right? Mia, Miss Russell, Miss Whitfield, Miss Knowles, and I know y'all don't want to miss your trip to Walmart. Okay? So this is what we were just talking about. The bond ratings alerts investors to the quality and stability of the bond. Higher rated bonds, known as investment grade bonds, are seen as safer and more stable investments. Investment grade bonds usually contain AAA to BBB, right?
Mr. Fountain.
Yes.
So you said the ratings is what would cause our country to go back into that level of junk if they were to get a bad rating.
Right. So what I'm saying to you is the rating agencies, okay, assign a rating to the Bahamas. And the rating to the Bahamas is just on the edge of investment grade. If it gets another downgrade, it will be into junk bond status.
Would you say that causes it to get to junk?
Generally, it's the financial situation and the economic conditions in the country. Now, if the politics were not stable, that would be an impact, have an impact too. But in the Bahamas, we have very stable political scene. Even though we change governments, there's no violence, there's nobody getting shoot up, ain't nobody trying to storm parliament like that. Okay? However, right, one of the biggest problems the Bahamas has is, right, because of the high level of imports, it has to be very, very careful as to where it spends its foreign currency or its US dollars. Okay? Yeah? And every time we expand credit in this country, we expand the amount of money spent on imports. Right? So
What about the borrowing of monies?
that is also a part of it, right? And this is government borrowing, right? And one of the problems with the government borrowing is the level of government borrowing is quite high, right? Because the level of government expenditure is quite high and needs to come down. Yeah? And it's not on people double dipping into retirement and pay. It's from the expenditure on the civil service, and it is from the expenditures on what are considered by the Bahamas government to be necessary social expenditures. That covers an awful lot of ground.
Sidewalks.
Yep. Junkanoo. Bahamas government spends money for Junkanoo. They spend money for sidewalks. They spend money for education. They spend money for social services. They spend money for indigent people. They spend money on the prescription drug program. They spend money on, if you go to Princess Margaret Hospital, you could walk out and never even pay the bill. All of these things they spend money on.
I have a quick question. Okay, the earthquake that would have pretty much destroyed Haiti, they got all of their debt was forgiven or wiped out. Was that correct? Is that correct?
Some of it was, yes. Go ahead. I'm listening.
So they would have been rated.
They would have been rated, yes.
But how?
Okay, go ahead. I'm listening to you, Carl.
In layman's terms, okay, in layman's terms, they would have said gotten what you call it? They went bankrupt. They had no. I missed something.
I'm trying to understand. What do you mean when you say what happens?
How are they rated? How would Moody rate them?
Because of the earthquake, how I am doing that. I'm changing something.
Okay, they no longer owe anybody. So they are what you call debt free.
He said it wiped out some of it, some of the debt.
Okay, this is what happens. If sorry, go on.
Go ahead, explain.
Okay, I'm going to have to come out of my shared screen for a moment. Okay. Okay. Because I need to do something. So I'm going to continue talking to you. So just hold on. Okay. So where am I here? what I'm saying to you is that the agencies that lent them the money, right, in the form, it says, okay, we're going to forgive your bond debt. All right. Now that means that you're not going to have to repay it back. We just wipe it off. Okay. If we do that, if they do that, okay. I'm sorry, Colette. I'm just trying to get back to the screen now. You should, this thing can be so frustrating. Okay. So this is what happened in Haiti. They had an earthquake. The people that had lent them the money said, hold on, you're going through a tough time. You don't need to pay us back. Okay? Now, how does that affect Moody's? Well, that impacts Moody's review of the country because it has impacted the financial reports of the country. They don't have as much cash going out to go pay interest or principal on their debt. And they don't have a big debt payment in the future when they have to pay the principal or interest sometime in the future. Okay? Will that have a positive impact on their bond rating? Possibly, but it all depends on what else is happening. Okay? Because of the earthquake, they got the debt reduced, but also they had to make a lot more payments to take care of some of the people that were injured, who were homeless, and also to make repairs to some of the government buildings and so forth. Yeah? So it's not as straightforward as that. Okay? Does that help? Hello? Miss Knowles, your mic is off. Does that help?
And the stability of the government also plays a part too, correct?
It does, right? Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. But I keep saying to you, the stability, the Bahamas government, our government system is very, very stable. Okay. Yeah. It's very stable. For a small country, it is incredibly stable. Right? You think of Trinidad, where the Muslim people tried to take over the government, right? And had people held ransom. This was maybe 15, 20 years ago, that might have happened. You think of Suriname in Central America, where they had a coup, right? Okay. You think of places in Africa, right, where they have had elections that have been rigged. Think of places in Central America, right, where there have been revolutions, right? Okay. We have had none of that. That's political stability. Okay. So that is a big part of it, but it is not the only thing. At some point, you have to look at the debt. You have to look at the cash flow for the country. They do exactly, not exactly, but in principle, they do exactly what Carla does when someone walks in and says, I would like to borrow $15,000 to purchase a car. So Carla says, tell me how much you to spend, how much you to make, tell me what you to spend, right? How much money you have free to meet these payments. Tell me all about the debt you have. They do exactly the same thing. Okay, on another note, I've just sent you an email with the test. You should have it by now. Ms. Whitfield, I could see you looking at it hard. That means you got the test? You see the email? Ms. Russell, you see the email?
I see
Yes,
the
I got
email,
it.
but I need you to answer number one for me.
No problem. Send me over a case of Barbancourt, right? Rum. If you could get it to me within the next hour, I'll give you the answer. Okay, and I want a case. That's 6 bottles of Babinco, a 20-year-old from Haiti. From Haiti. Okay, Ms. Knowles, you got the case? The test. Ms. Oughton, Ms. Fernanda. Everybody's got the test. Ms. Kemp.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Let's go. Work on your test. If you have it, let's go. I don't want to hit. Everybody better work on the test.
How I
All
can
right.
get out? How I have to do it on another computer or?
I don't know, Miss Ferguson. What do you mean? How are you getting it? Did you get it on the phone?
Hold on, I got my little girl do it.
Excellent. My little girl ain't here, but she's about 30 now, so she ain't little no more. Okay. All you got to do is download it and then start typing into the document. I'm sure your daughter got that sorted out for you, Miss Mark Ferguson. Ms. Cartwright, did you get the test?
I'm going to check now.
It's 8 o'clock. If you've got your test, start working. You got half an hour. Let's go, Miss Whitfield. Hurry up with that first question.
I got it.
Ms. Russell is working away. She ain't saying anything. Keep it up, Ms. Russell. Carl is working away. Ms. Knowles going to turn the video off and working. Ms. Fernanda is working as well. Let's go, Ms. Fernanda.
Trying to get
I
it.
trying to get into. I in it.
But I
Don't
get it on
start
my
it yet
phone, but it
because-
ain't in my
Okay.
inbox.
Hold on. Everybody who has it, just start working on the test.
I'm trying to find out.
They all wouldn't allow me to type in.
No, not again. I took off all the protocols. All you need to do is download it. If you can't type into it, create another Word document and type into that. Just type your answers. Type 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and type your answers in.
No, I'm trying to get in my email. I'm trying to sign in. He's showing everything sign up on this computer.
Told you we were gonna send you an email. We told you I was gonna do that. What you do, Miss Ferguson? You gotta be
Fanny,
ready
come
for
here,
this.
please. No, I using my daughter's laptop and she have all her foolishness signing. I sign out of this so I can sign in my email. Please.
Hi, Vani.
It's
Okay,
there.
Miss Fernanda, you're okay? You got it?
Sign out so I can sign in my email.
Okay.
Oh, right here. Go here, and go to mommy.
Yes, I'm okay. I got it.
Great. Okay.
That look like Polish.
Okay, I got it.
Sign in my sign on this. No, it's not. It ain't there.
Wait, I gotta go get a drink of water. Baby, do the test.
Brianna is not there. That ain't mine. Ah, shit. Leave me. Brianna is not there. I'm signing in now.
Mic off. Martine, turn your mic off.
Oh, sorry. See? I go back to that now to turn that off.
Okay, Shawnette, are you still there?
Oh Lord, Mr. Cartwright. I mean, Mr. Fountain.
Good. Everybody's working. Keep it up.
Let me see if I could do something else.
Oh Lord, I can't even get in to see the question. Yeah.
I can't bring them down.
Are you using this girl laptop? Okay. Exam. Linda, explain. Oh yeah, answering it. But Mr. Soburi, but Mr. Fountain say do the download it or just print. All these questions, man.
I can't even get on myself. Don't feel bad.
Well, mother, should this girl you be thing come up? Hold on.
Turn your mic off.
I didn't know how to get there right now. I scared I make clues, so I just signed the exam.
Don't even allow me to type in it. Open my Google Docs. Let me
You
try.
gotta download it, Carla.
I did.
You see where at the top it say enable editing?
For me?
Yeah, at the top of the Word document, it says enable editing or something like that. You
This
click
file
it.
needs to be saved as a doc. Okay.
Once you download it, it can allow you to do it.
Okay, I could type in it now. All right. Oh Lord, what is this tonight?
Turn your mic off, Carla.
Look at me. I just started to find that I could type in it now. Let me see, so I don't shut you out. I will shut you off. I open this up now. I don't know why I ain't touching that.
Okay, Martine, you're working. You got found the test. You're working.
Yes, sir.
Great. Turn your mic off.
I know how to get back there. I scared I make those mistakes.
I can't get back there too.
Listen.
And most of all, do the test. Leave everything else the way it is.
Sure. Oh, it's telling me this modification is open. Oh, shoot. This modification is not allowed because the document is open for viewing only. What I do wrong?
That's what it said with mine too.
And how you get to take that out?
I know, I play around with it. I know what I do.
Oh, shit. Oh. Art man. How you get it, Carla?
I think I just, I don't know.
Who let the dog out? Let the dog out. Who let the dog out? Who let the dog out? Who let the dog out? Who let the dog out?
You get it, Mari?
You have 10 minutes, sorry, 5 minutes, right? Once you leave, once you're finished and email the test back to me, you can leave the class if you choose. Miss Kemp and Miss Ferguson have an extra 5 minutes due to their computer skills.
That's a good way to put it. We gotta try Senate now.
I just feel dumb.
That's, you're not dumb if you don't get help.
And I
If you get help, you're fine.
Just 5 questions, right, Mr. Founder?
Yep, just
Okay.
5.
Let me, okay.
Thank you, Dominic. I have your test.
What?
You're welcome. Good night.
Good night. Let's go. You guys should be finished. Come on, Claudette, Colette, you should be finished. Angelique, you should be
I'm
finished.
trying to save it.
If you have to save it, you have to save it again.
Yeah, once you put in the answer, because I just tried to send it and all the answers gone because I didn't save it. So I had to go back in. Okay, I think I did. Hold on, attach. Okay, attach file. Okay, okay, they say 754. Let me make sure I send in the right thing. Preview.
Mr. Sanders, do you have my test?
I'm sorry, what was that, Angelique?
Oh, shit. Oh, sorry.
Angelique, you were saying something?
And if you have my test.
Yes, I do.
Okay, good night.
Good night.
Save. Okay, so now I go back. It's not, what the hell?
Calm down. You'll get it.
Okay, so, okay. No. Come on, where's it? Oh, shit, man. Okay, so I could save it to the desktop then. Let me see, add a place. That's what I can do. No, browse. Save it to the desktop and maybe I could find it. Okay, now go back to the email. Attach. So let me see.
Colette, you need to turn your mic off. Mia, have you sent your test in? Let's go.
Okay, attach. Okay, it's on the desktop.
Come on, Ms. Whitfield. Just send the test in.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Fountain, can you check to see if oh, Jesus. Can you check to see if can you check mine, please, and see if I send the right one? I tried to open it, listen.
Good night.
Good night.
Did you get mine?
Just hold on.
Okay. Jesus.
I have a test that came from you, but no one, you didn't put your name on it. Okay,
Oh,
that's okay. It's from you. I got it.
you got mine, Mr.
Okay.
Fountain?
Okay, who asked me that just now? Just hold on a second here.
Mia.
Just give me 1 minute, Mia. I'll tell you in a second.
And that,
Night. Okay. Okay. Yes, Mia, I have yours.
Okay,
Okay, good night.
good night.
Mr. Fountain, I just trying to send it to you. Let me see if I trying to save it.
Okay, you'll get it.
I know, there's a new setup tonight.
So once I hit it up here by file, and then I could go. I think okay. Let me see.
Email it now. Okay, I think I have it. Email it to, what's the name? What's your name again? Fountain? That's what it under, right? Oh, Julian, okay. I think. Don't say, don't laugh. See if I get it now. Hold on, it's going.
Just give it a chance. I'll check in a
Finish
minute.
a copy. I know, Mr. Fountain, see if it's gone.
Just give it a chance. I'll tell you in a minute.
Let me try again, just in case. Email is file. Get it?
Just give me a second. I'm doing something else at the moment. So just hold on. Okay, Carla, I have yours.
You have it? That's the one with the answers?
Yes, you typed in uppercase.
Yes. I won't get 20 marks this time.
That's great. I hope it works out for you.
I think I try to answer everything.
All right. Well, you'll get to it. Don't hurt your head. Good night.
I think I know.
You can't do nothing about it now. It's already been submitted, right? So don't hurt your head.
Okay, so when I do this now, I have to go back to the email. It ain't, or it should let me
Just
send right from here.
You have to attach it to the email.
Send.
Okay, so
So Ms. Whitfield, you've taken an awfully long time to send me that test, Ms. Whitfield.
Oh, it don't allow me to send it straight from here then?
No, you have to attach it to the email.